Hi, everyone. Michelle DeAmber here. I'm here with Josephine Zanetti again. Hi, Josephine.
Hi, Michelle. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm fine.
Good. Today we're going to talk about toxic metals and toxic forms of minerals that build up within the body that are bio-unavailable and how these can affect the body. We are not doctors or licensed professionals, so seek somebody out. We're just speaking on our own knowledge of hair mineral analysis and how we've been healing and detoxing from heavy metals.
Yeah, great. That's fantastic. Okay, let's get going. You can start.
Okay. So let's talk about things like mercury. Okay. Mercury's in our dental. Gosh, in my teens, I had so much mercury in my mouth that I'd open my mouth and people were like, whoa, because the whole, these are all crowns in the back of my teeth because all of them were filled in my mouth was silver. And then as I got older and I was grinding my teeth and having to do with toxic metals, I had high anxiety, parasites, chronic yeast infections and stuff. I would literally bite a potato chip or something like that and my whole tooth would fall apart. So then I had to get crowns. But you can find them in vaccines, flu shots, fish. Our clients, when they get a hair test, I can usually tell they're eating fish because they're showing an elimination on their hair test.
That's right. Yeah, and the symptoms also that we get is like some people have acne out of it. They get asthma from it. Mm-hmm. They can get all kinds of different addictions from it, anorexia from it, because mercury is tied to copper toxicity. So it seems like they go hand in hand as well, But I also had the same problem as you did. My whole mouth was silver in the back. And then I changed it. I got some crown and I got some gold in the back. And I got all kinds of different things. And just lately, I had to have one that had to be pulled out. And I haven't replaced it because I'm not sure what I'm going to be putting there. I don't want anything that's going to be fake, or anyways, it's a bit complicated. It doesn't show, mm-hmm. But I think it'd be best if I do have something replaced with that tooth, because if I don't have it replaced, it's going to start again more and more and more. Yeah. I'm already like this because I don't have a really round face, mm-hmm. But then that's the fault of the dentist. You see, then when we're children and then we become adults, they tell you got to remove your wisdom tooth, they remove mm-hmm. it. And then our whole face starts to change. Many times our wisdom tooth don't have to be removed if they're in good condition. There's mm-hmm. many teeth in our mouth that don't have to be removed. But on the other hand, we got the dentist wanting to pull everything out and doing all kinds of things to our mouth, because quite honestly, there's much more money in doing crowns and everything else that goes along with it than just making sure that our mouth are just in good condition. But yeah, mercury is something.
Yeah, that seems to be a big one. And aluminum, which is not, a toxic metal. Well, it is, but it's found in everything. I mean, look at cans, aluminum foil. I don't use any of that stuff anymore. Deodorant. I've been using natural deodorant for years now. It's in the chemtrails. It's in vaccines, flu shots. And that is, we usually see a elimination high on almost every, I don't know about you, Josephine, but I see it on everybody's hair test.
Yeah, me too. And you know what? There's a lot of it in the drinking water. In most cities, they add this aluminum to the water. Mm-hmm. They have it in table salt as well. And then if you eat, and thank God we don't, but there are foods that are processed that are made with aluminum containing baking powder. Mm-hmm. Some people, here we go. And then you got the antacids that are full of it. Okay. And then you got the people who work with clay as well. There's a lot of aluminum in there. And then depending on the cookware you cook in, this is why it's very important to cook in stainless steel if it's possible. It's expensive, but it's worth it. And then you also have skin remedies that can be full of aluminum as well. So these are all little accumulations. It accumulates, and then what does the aluminum do to the body? Quite honestly, again, it's brain fog. Some people get Alzheimer. You get the
dementia,
kidney dysfunction that we get from it, right? Parkinson disease as well. So
yeah, that has a lot to do with different metals as well. Because of the nervous system. But aluminum is, and I've even seen on hair tests where it's been low or just a mild elimination, and then eventually when the body gets healthier and people have more energy, then they have a huge elimination. So you may get a hair test and go, oh, I don't see much on it. Work with a practitioner, because you won't understand a hair test. Some people look at it and they think that what's low is low, but that just means you're not eliminating. So it's stored in the body, and until you have enough energy and you're on a program that's able to detox, you won't see that come out of the hair and out of the body.
That's right. Actually, there's the lower it is, as we call it, the pore eliminator pattern. It's like you have more than what it appears, actually. And so that's a problem. So that's why we suggest procedures like the red infrared light is very good, and coffee enemas in order to speed it up, in order to start detoxifying from it. So
or near infrared sauna. But I would lay off the sauna if you have certain hair patterns, like a 4 low, a low sodium to potassium ratio, or a very low sodium, some sympathetic dominance. People with those patterns are lower in energy, and they're going to struggle more if they do the sauna. So just using a single heat lamp shining on the liver and the kidneys for 5-10 minutes, whatever, and build up that way is best.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because getting in the full sauna, if you're a 4 low, even if you only stay 20 minutes, after that, you're not even able to function.
It's very depleting. And I've done the sauna in sympathetic dominance, and it's really rough. I like to try these things on myself so that when I'm talking to my clients, I can say firsthand, what's going to happen. There's definitely benefits to it, but you just want to be careful when you're starting a detoxification, and make sure that your elimination, your pathways are moving, because what happens, and this happens in general, is that the toxins are not eliminating, and they'll get stored in fat cells. So people who are overweight probably have a lot of metals as well, and that's where they're stored.
Right, exactly. So it's everything. When you start any program, or if you start a program of detox, common sense is to start slow in everything. So even let's say if you eat fruits on a daily basis, and you eat 5 fruits a day, rather than just stop all the fruits, you wean yourself out from the fruits for the same reason as somebody would wean himself off the drugs, basically. Same thing.
Because you can have a crash. The body is used to a certain amount of sugar, and some people think, oh, it's fruit. No, it's sugar. So and
That's
people who are I would say sugar addicts will gravitate to the fruits because they're addicted to sugar.
That's right. And most of us was just reading actually an article on the sugar, which we probably would like to talk about next time, because you're very knowledgeable also about it. So what we should, I was reading in the Epoch Times about how sugar feeds cancer. Now, the only thing they don't talk about in that article, but I think eventually that's going to be coming soon, is the fruits. But fruits, if you have too much, especially grapes, because they're so toxic, even though you buy them organic, they're wide open in the field, and they get sprayed with all kinds of different chemicals, even if they're organic. But that's really something that it's becoming more and more on in the news, where they talk about the sugar being a big problem for people.
We definitely should, but that'll be a podcast for sure.
Yeah.
I used to host 3-week sugar detox groups, and I've had people that were diabetic who got off the fruits. You know, I had a certain way that I conducted this, you know, sugar detox, and within a few weeks, their blood sugar was normal. So it's quite amazing that we can literally reverse and not have certain health issues just from the way that we eat.
That's right. Type 1 is a bit difficult, but if you're a type, that's right. Type 1 is a bit difficult to reverse, but type 2 is definitely much. I mean, that is like an easy thing to do. If you stop, I have people I know, they're on metformin or they're on these diabetic medication only because they want to continue having their ice cream. They want to continue drinking their 2 glasses of wine every night. And they want to continue their fruits and their sugar, their pastries.
And orange juice.
Yes, orange
juice.
Oh
my gosh, when I see people drink a glass of orange juice, I'm like, look, you might as well just get a Snickers bar. Yeah. It's much more enjoyable than a glass of orange juice or just have a bowl of ice cream because they're the same. Yeah, that's definitely, we won't digress there, but that's definitely a long podcast that we can do.
That's right. And quite honestly, all these fruits are full of toxic metals and toxic chemicals, by the way. That's another thing. Okay, so it does cause a havoc in the body, no question.
Yeah. So some of the other things that we'll see on hair test is lead, arsenic. Usually people who are eating rice, a lot of rice. I've had clients where I can see, you know, they weren't eating rice, then they started eating rice. I've seen it with me. It shows up immediately on the hair test.
That's right. And arsenic is also very prominent in the chickens. And so it's very hard to find chickens, although they can tell you it's organic. A lot of the chickens, they feed them grains and they feed them rice and they feed them all kinds of, because chickens,
I know they say vegetarian diet. The animals are not vegetarian. They should be eating bugs and stuff, you know.
Right.
They need to be eating bugs, not eating corn.
That's right. So the chicken and pig products, although we're not eating, or most people on the program don't eat pork, but we do have people who do. And then you got salt as well. That's very high in arsenic. That's why it's very important that we buy the right salt and not the sea salt from the table. Table salt is awful. So that's one thing. And then you even have some herbs that can be containing because of the soil. So if you can grow your own herb and, you know, that's much better. And then you got the water supplies that we have to look into.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. There's lithium in the water, you know, and we're not going to get away from it. And the goal isn't to like remove everything. I think, and I could speak from experience, that in the beginning, we tend to be like, oh my God, you know, I got to get rid of all these parasites. I got to get rid of all these toxic metals, but we can live in harmony with them. We have to fix our terrain. We have to make sure that we have stomach acid and digestive enzymes that are working properly and that we are eliminating every day. You should not be going number 2 every 2 or 3 days. You should be going at minimum once a day. Minimum. And next podcast, we're going to talk about digestion. You want to make sure that you're sweating, you know, that everything's just open and flowing to get rid of these things.
Yeah, because I mean, it does stay in your body. Most importantly, like what you just mentioned, is the detox. Part of the detox is to make sure you go to the bathroom on a daily basis. I mean, once a day, that's like Michelle just said, is the minimum once a day. Because really, ideally, would be twice a day. Really, ideally, twice or 3 times, just like children.
Perfectly, it would be 3 times a day because you eat a meal and then you go to the bathroom. And you watch this with your animals. You feed your dog and then you take him outside to go to the bathroom. And then we also deworm our dogs, and then our dogs climb in bed with us and we're not deworming ourselves. So, you know, these are just, to me, kind of logic. I even inspect my dogs. I go out there and I look at their number 2 because I want to see, should I give them more vegetables? Should I give them less vegetables? And I can tell by how they're eliminating.
Oh yeah, that's like I see a lot of dogs around here with their with people walking them, and they often tell me that their dogs are healthier because they poop 3 times a day compared to them. That some of them actually have a hard time pooping once a day.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so important. So, I mean, in order to eliminate toxic metals, that is the one thing that needs to be really corrected, and it's crucial because I mean you could die from not going to the bathroom. By the way, it's like I will talk about that next time for the digestion, another topic. But definitely, people die from not going to the bathroom. So that should be everybody's concern. I mean. So, but
that should be one of the top of your few concerns would be making sure that you're going to the bathroom, just in general. Because if that's not working properly, then yes, it's going to cause a lot of disease. So we'll definitely talk in depth about that and how to correct it. What else?
Oh, well, we got cadmium. Okay, cadmium, that's a very hard mineral to eliminate. Very, very hard. And it goes into your kidneys, goes into your adrenaline glands. I mean, and what it does to people, the symptoms you get from cadmium is some mental illness like ADHD, violence. People can be violent with it. It causes kidney diseases as well, cancer, diabetes, and where it comes from, a lot of it comes also from cigarettes.
Yep.
It also, it comes from the cigarette that people smoke, and also from even marijuana, actually. And I mean, now here we have, you can get it also from seashell a lot, and junk food. But I've noticed people who do have a high cadmium on their first test, most of them is because they were heavy smokers or are still heavy smokers as well. Most of them.
I smoked for 10 years, believe it or not, from the age of 15 to 25. I remember doing liver flushes about 6-7 years ago, and one of the liver flushes, for a couple of days, I tasted cigarettes in my mouth.
Wow.
So I know I must have been eliminating that because it was weird. I even had a dream about smoking. So
how much did you smoke? Did you smoke a pack a day?
I would smoke a pack a day because back then, it was acceptable to smoke. And so, and I was the type that, because I was very anxious and type A, and, it was, to me, it was this, and I would smoke at work. This is back in the day before they banned it. I remember smoking. I was a file clerk for a huge law firm, and I'm smoking in the file room. I mean, I could have, anybody could have started a fire. Back then they were smoking on the planes. My parents smoked. I think you're more prone to, do that in that environment. And then finally, I think in my 20s, we moved to California, and California started banning it everywhere. So I slowly was kind of not smoking as much. I couldn't smoke at work. I couldn't smoke, they stopped at the club, was going to the nightclubs, and then I couldn't smoke at home. So eventually I was like, I would smell my clothes, and I was so disgusted with the smell that I just said, that's it, I'm done. I just quit.
Wow. Okay. Me too. I started, believe it or not, I smoked as well.
You did?
Yeah. And I started actually because I wanted to be in with the crowd when I was really young, hanging out with these a little bit older than I was, maybe. And I used to do this with my nose in order to inhale because I couldn't inhale. But like you said, it's true. If your parents smoke, you usually will smoke. My parents were smokers. And my father actually, even though he had a surgery for a triple bypass, he stopped for a little while, but then he went back and used to hide to smoke because he couldn't. My mom would not allow him in the house with the cigarette. So he would hide, but when he'd come in, that's all you smelled. And, so it's nicotine, they say, is a very hard substance to stop.
To stop.
And,
it's very addictive, extremely addictive. And years ago, I got my my genetic test, and it said that I was more prone to be addicted to cigarettes.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Which was interesting. And I had tried to quit 3 times. You know, thankfully, I have less of an addict personality and more of a stubbornness. I'm kind of like an all in, and I'll just make a decision, and then I can literally just stop something.
So have you noticed if you're eliminating any cadmium in your
No, I think maybe once it showed a little bit of an elimination, but now that my energy is starting to come back, I'll probably start to show more elimination, because as you know, I've been in sympathetic dominance for years now. But I feel like that's switching. So hopefully, you know, in the coming future, I'll see that come up. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So,
but I don't know how much I eliminated before I started the program, because I've been doing detox and certain things before I even started using hair mineral analysis.
Right.
I had done 17 liver flushes before I started, you know, doing nutritional balancing.
Right. So, yeah, like I started doing colonics and coffee enemas about maybe 20, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. So even more, and that was my life, quite honestly, because again, here we go. Next week, it'll be about digestion, and that was it.
Right.
Talk about having a lot of toxicity in the body. You see, a lot of people who have, the more toxic you have in the body, and the more you'll be sensitive to things like EMF, by the way. You'll be more of an antenna than if you have a little less than others, okay? So it's like we have a lot of clients like that. I was one of those people who was very sensitive. I still am, because the numbers like G5, 5G, I'm not even sure if we have it here, but it seems even the 4G is very powerful. You know, it doesn't matter where you are, you kind of feel it everywhere. And also these are so powerful now. It's just amazing how powerful they are. You can hold them for 5 minutes and I start feeling the heat. So that's something that people have to be careful, because in here, there's a lot of toxic right off the bat, you know, and eliminating it's like counterproductive. You know, you're on this program or on a program that tells you that detox, and then we have no choice because we're working that we have to get on this, you know. So it's really a discipline that we have to learn to spend only so much time.
Well, it's a balancing act. You know, I always say it's what you put into it. You know, are you going to do 80-20, 90-10, you know, and we can't be 100%. And quite frankly, life is life. We're just going to have to deal with this radiation and 5G and all of this Wi-Fi. I mean, that's just, we can't stop it. So the best thing to do is just become healthier, so that we can handle those types of things. Just like disease, you know, if you were to get something and your body's stronger, you're more able to get through it. So I focus more on just being my best so that I can handle things instead of trying to, you know, eliminate, everything. You know, I can't get away from it. It's just there.
That's right. We can't, I mean, we'd like to for it to be different, and they could use other products, but we know that that's not going to happen in our lifetime. And if it does, you know, so in the meantime, we have to mitigate. That's what we have to do. We have to mitigate in order to get for ourselves to be able to function, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to function if we have to. I don't even know how people really function when you think about it. Those who are not, let's say, eating properly, they're full of toxic. I think it's like the homeless people when I see them on the streets of Vancouver, and it's amazing. They survive everything. There's nothing they don't survive. I'd be there for half a day. Oh God, please don't make me go through this. But I'm just saying, one day I don't think I'd survive survive. So these people, it's like even the more toxic you are, the more you're able to handle it, the more you detoxify, then so
you're
it's
more
like,
sensitive.
yes,
Right.
so it's like that's right. It really is a balancing act because, there's pros and cons, I mean, I see these aboriginals hanging on the streets, they're dirty, and then you got the other people as well, women. I mean, I don't even know how they make it, but the truth is, it's like the more toxic they are and the better they're able to handle these things, because otherwise, like you and I, we probably wouldn't be able. So there is a balancing act. Sure, you want to detoxify and purify because it's very important, but I mean, to what extent?
Right.
Basically
you can't cut everything out. And the other thing too that's a little bit more esoteric is we are what we think. So you can go, I read an article of like this 96-year-old man, and he drank whiskey and smoked cigars every day and he was fine. So what do you say about that? One, he's got good genetics. Okay, some people just have good genetics. The other thing is, he doesn't think what he's doing is bad. So if he doesn't think what he's doing is bad, that it's harming him, that plays a huge role in, how things affect us. So, when my clients, I try to say, don't kind of look at things as good and bad. Just approach it, kind of a mechanical way. Don't be too attached. And just eventually we kind of start to change our thinking, because there's so many tapes from when we were young, growing up. Like if you always heard your mother saying, we have allergies in our family, then that gets filed away. We have allergies in our family, or we have heart disease in our family, and that gets filed away, and that becomes like our belief system. And so we kind of attract those things into our life. So in the beginning, you want to kind of not be attached to a program that, this is bad and this is good, but just kind of do it because it's going to help you physically, and then kind of change your thinking at the same time. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Because quite honestly, that's the biggest problem. It's really what we have to do is to learn to detach. Like you said, the programming from my childhood, especially the program from everything else that we've learned as well on the TV, that it be in the movies or whatever, which were very, okay. And these are all things that have actually affected us. Okay. It may have looked like at the beginning but to think that, let's say my mother had breast cancer, let's say she never did, but let's say my mother had breast cancer. And when you go to the doctor, they tell you that, okay, like in Canada, if they know genetically that your mother had breast cancer, they'll tell you that it may be a good thing for you to remove your breast, because it's highly likely you'll have cancer of the breast. Imagine that.
So that statement right there, I would say, no, I'm reject that, and that's the thing, is we have to kind of approach it from, okay, yes, eating healthier, detoxing is helpful, but also kind of cancel these things that you have to do it, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I hope I'm getting across.
Oh yeah, no, but that's basically it.
Yeah. It's not being attached to anything, and
even your culture,
and changing our program. And it's not, you just say, okay, that's it today. The tapes and the depth of what we don't know consciously, that we can't recall, is so deep. So you kind of have to kind of go along with these things that we're saying that are good for you, until you can actually change the internal tapes and stuff like that. And there's a lot of spiritual gurus have completely healed themselves of major health conditions using that. But it takes time. So you kind of want to overlap and do both at the same time.
That's right. I mean, the people who have the hardest time is those who are very attached to their culture, to who that's their identity per se. Let's say Italians, that would be one. Mexicans too, by the way, because them it's their tortillas, they're red with the salsa, and us it's the pasta with the pizza, and then you know what I mean. And then you have the English, probably, with all said and done, the English, and let's say even the Polish people, the Poles are better, their diet are better than many others because they eat the foods that are a little bit healthier, and maybe their skin, I don't know, reflects that. I'm not sure, but I'm just saying. So yeah, definitely this attachment that we have, even in the Bible, by the way, it tells you God doesn't, if you're still attached to your mother, to your father, to your sister, to your family, he doesn't want you. He wants you to be attached only to him, only to him. And quite honestly,
attachment is the root of all suffering.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it is.
It is. I mean, it's really the root of suffering is any kind of attachment. And the thing is, whatever we're attached with, more than likely we might lose as a lesson, a spiritual lesson. That's why I personally, and I know Josephine believes that there's a spiritual connection to all of this. So we're kind of doing these things mechanically because we're human and we've got the mind that's all messed up. And but you don't want to be attached to it. There's a lot of people who are so attached to the being healthy that they actually make themselves sick.
Absolutely.
They're like they're chronically sick because they're not fixing these other things that we're talking about and not being attached, looking at the spiritual aspect, looking at the things that we're not letting go of, and they could be belief systems, they could be grudges, they can be trauma and hurt and pain, until we can work on all of those things, all this other stuff is just it's not gonna help.
No, that's basically, it's our body has great dignity, and what we do with our bodies affect our souls. Mm-hmm. Okay, it does affect our soul. So what I think is that if we neglect one, if you neglect the body, or merely we only work on the body and we neglect the soul, that encourages an internal division and conflict, which oftentimes leads to chaos from within and without. I mean, that's the way the world is too, because the soul really is eternal. And if we ignore the soul and we're only working on our body, it doesn't work. And I think that's why we're seeing it right now in the world in the last 2 years, the way things have been working and what has been going on, because our body and soul will not be aligned. When it's not aligned, disease starts to occur. It manifests itself in various ways, like we said. So yes, the toxic metals, I mean, look at it. What are toxic metals? It's like, I can refer to it like it could be the good and the bad, and we're always going to have to deal with toxic metals. I mean, they had to deal with it in the beginning of times, and we're always going to have to deal with these serious issues that we have. But like you said, and I think that's what me and Michelle were about, it's all about that. It's all about spirituality at the end, because without that, you have nothing, so you clean yourself out. You think you're cleaning yourself out, but you're still having issues because you haven't dealt with them yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this is why you'll see some people who have, something happens to them and they took care of themselves. But, we don't know, were they taking care of their thoughts, their heart, holding grudges, things like that. It gets stored in the body, just think of an internal conflict, how that could actually keep you healthy. If we have an internal conflict, or another thing that people tend to have issues that I find are they don't know what their purpose is in this world. And so they're just constantly searching for it and feeling kind of empty because they haven't figured out what their role is in this world. And I believe everybody has one. Some people may have it on a more global, bigger scale, but some people, it could be just, you're being kind to your neighbor and that neighbor's was going to commit suicide. Like everybody has a role in this world. But until you find it, you're probably going to feel lost and have issues because we're out of balance.
That's right. And I think now, I mean, we started with the toxic, we started with mercury, aluminum, but basically the biggest toxic is our internal self.
Conflict, right?
That's right. And they would say, well, the toxic, like cadmium, aluminum, and all of these, yes, they do create diseases. But I think what creates the disease, if we have to look even deeper, has to do with our train of thoughts, the way we think, and how we look at things. That makes a big difference, you know. So it's like,
and that's another reason why people may not be able to eliminate. So you think of it as holding on tightly to something. You know, you're holding on to something, you're not letting it go. Well, we do that internally. So this could be, you know, problems with constipation, you know, that we're holding tightly onto something. Same thing with the pores, you know, we call it a pore eliminator pattern, or holding onto your pores because there's just something that we're just not letting go. But once we work through it, like I have a client who I did on a video, her client, you know, sorry, her analysis of her hair test. And you can see when she went through depression and she was struggling, and then she came out of it, she had this huge elimination. So we have to kind of visit the darkness and work through that and then let go. You know, it's not all happiness and everything's bright and sunny and I'm positive and perfect and everything's great. No, life kind of sucks. You know, we have crap to deal with. But until we deal with it, we're going to hold on to stuff, and then it festers and it causes health problems.
Yeah, I can remember the people of the lie, what's his name? Scott Peck, in his book of the people of the lie, does say that at the beginning, one of the first page, he says that once you realize how life is hard, then everything is smooth from there. And that's a very, very hard one for people to get. You know, they really don't like that phrase. It's like I've had a few clients that when I've said that to them, they reacted. And what do you mean it's going to be hard? No, once you come to that realization, it's like easy after that. I mean, it's admit it. That's it. Just, it's like admit you got a problem when you go to the 12 steps. Same thing with life. I mean, I don't know anybody, or I don't know about you, but that had a life that was really smooth.
I've had some I've had some very dark times, and the times that I went through a deep depression, or what you call a dark night of the soul, I came out of it with so many like revelations and just understanding about myself, about life and other people. So, you know, I think that in order to see the light, you have to go through the dark.
Absolutely, you know, because, and it's the same thing, like, again, with the last 2 years, what we've been through. I mean, I'm hoping and praying that a lot of the people, not only that they have awakened and seen certain things, but they've seen things in themselves as well, so that we are going to become a better people, because at this point in time, the more we go into the darkness and the worse it gets. But, you know, now that we were almost done, but, you know, this is what it does with the program. Some people go through retracing. Okay. They're eliminating so much toxins and they're going through the retracing. And it is in those moments where there's a lot, I must say, I wouldn't say, well, a lot, or some are freaking out. They think it's the diet. They think it's the supplements, and they really get scared. They blame the supplement because it's got the different kind of filler in there. And then you got I don't know, with the diet, I don't know what it would be, but, you know, believe it or not, people would say the diet is a problem. So,
or they leave and they don't want to do it anymore. And that's because it's uncomfortable. You know, it's uncomfortable to visit those things. Look, everybody has a bad side. You know, we all have this dark ego. And until we can look at it and go, hey, you know, I have the side of me. It's not so great.
Yeah, just admit it. I mean, that's it. And you know,
if you try to avoid it and run away from it, it becomes this shadow, you know, and I've talked about shadow work before. Then it's this shadow that we're trying to hide. And, it just needs to come out. I know who I am when I'm tired, hungry, angry,
Yeah,
like
name it.
once you know those things about yourself and you can see it and go, okay, I could be this way too. Then we can start to understand other people more. It doesn't mean that you should tolerate abuse from other people, but you do understand them more when you can see parts of yourself that are like that.
That's right. And like if you suffer from anxieties, because we do have clients that are very, very anxious and have a really hard time, I think it's a time for them to take 5 and not go into the future. Think of what's going on. Don't think about the past, what you've done wrong, or go in the future, your goals and what you're going to be doing, because you don't even know if you'll be here or not, or none of us know. We're not in control as much as we think we are. We only have some control, but we don't have a whole lot of control. I think this is why wellness has become such a big boom in the wellness industry, because people feel and think that the only control they have is with their bodies, but that's a fallacy as well. We don't even have that
no
either.
control over anything.
Yeah, no control over anything. So to even think about the future, because the anxieties, yes, a lot of time comes from dumping some toxic metals. Okay, some people have that, but a lot of it has to do also with the train of thought. So that train of thought is like a choo-choo train. If you don't stop that choo-choo train, it's going to collide. There's going to be a collusion for sure.
Well, it becomes an addiction, and then it becomes our personality. And Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this beautifully, that if you keep talking about that thing that happened 20 years ago, it becomes your personality. Then you're seeking out things that can, that you, like, say it's anger and bitterness, then you seek out things in the present day to be angry and bitter about. I would watch people when I used to be on Facebook sharing all these depressing things, and I'd go, wow, they must be really sad about something from their past, because they're looking for something today to express that emotion that has become their personality. So it's very interesting how, and usually being brought up in chaotic environments, toxic environments in our home, we become addicted to the stress hormones. And depression is regret in the past, and anxiety is worrying about the future. But in the present moment, most of the time, we're not really in a bad situation. Yes, you could be experiencing something bad, but in general, a huge part of our depression, anxiety is because our thoughts are in the past or in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if more people, that it be not just clients of ours, but the whole world, because there's so many things going on, you can't get attached to anything, basically. If you love God with all your heart is all you need to do. That's it. That's all. Anything else besides that, it doesn't. Of course, we got to live life.
Well, your kids, your animals, things, or your parents that are, older and can't take care of themselves. There are certain, things that we should be responsible and take care of. But in general, we just need to really focus on ourselves.
Yeah. So for the end of this podcast and video that we're having, I think that's basically what it's all about at the end of the day. It's like, yes, it's important. The reason we detoxify, it's exactly for that reason. By we're purifying our minds, we purify our hearts, we become better people. We're able to go through certain things and we realize, oh, wow, I didn't die this time. And, stuff like that. It's like going through the motion of being afraid that if you get a result from the doctor that shows a certain amount of your blood sugar, if it's high or low or whatever, instead of panicking, you say, okay, this may not be based on facts. I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. And then next thing you know, it's all gone. Next thing you know, you go back to the clinic again, have yourself check, and you find out, oh, gee, what happened here? I'm doing really good. That's right. Because the truth of the matter is, there's certain things that we do we have to go through it, and nothing comes easy, really nothing. Anything worthwhile is not easy, for sure.
I think people who are more spiritually focused are less afraid of death. And, at the end of the day, all of our fears lead to our fear of death. Dr. David R. Hawkins talks about this in all his books, that if you keep questioning everything and you get down to the real, the question, the answer is that we're afraid of dying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're so right. You're so right about that.
Yeah, it's true. Like, you just keep asking yourself, well, what if this? What if I lose my home? What if everybody walks away from me? What if I'm out on the streets? What if, and then at the end, we're afraid of dying. And we saw this through this thing that happened a couple of years ago, how much people fear death. But what's really interesting too, is that a majority of the people are living in passive suicide. So there's this weird polarity of killing ourselves every day through what we're consuming and what we're doing and what we're not doing, and being afraid of dying. It's just interesting for me to watch how somebody can be killing themselves with the things that they're doing to their body. That's called passive suicide if you're not taking care of yourself and loving yourself. And then also being afraid of death.
It's called cognitive dissonance. This is what exactly cognitive dissonance is. So it's like, that's a good example of how most of us, by the way, one of my therapists had said to me that there's not many people on this earth that don't suffer from mental illness. We all, the question is the degree of mental illness that we suffer from, because to live in this world, it's not an easy place to be, quite honestly. So, but the more you realize that, and the degree becomes less and less and less, which is a good thing. But if I have to look back at my child, when I look back in my young adulthood, I mean, it was like, yes, the cigarettes or whatever, a little bit of drink here and whatever. But I mean, talk about making I think it was a gradual change too, right?
It is. For me too, it was gradual, because there's almost like different levels of self-love. I got to a level where I was definitely loving myself more than I did in the past, but then I was still doing things and allowing things in my life that still wasn't self-love. So then you go through a period and go, oh, wait a minute, and we start to love ourselves more. And then eventually you're just making better choices in your life. You don't want to drink. You don't want to be around people that are not bringing you up, but it definitely is a gradual process.
Yeah. So, I mean, don't feel discouraged for people who are listening. Actually, there's a lot of hope in this. And, the more faith you have, the better it is. Things get better for you. It will get better. And for those who are doing well, just spread the word and let people know. So about how important it is to start detoxifying, purifying, and whatever fear they have, if they get through it, it's going to be like hallelujah every time. I mean, it's like the way it is, right?
Like a superpower to be happy alone and not afraid of dying.
That's right.
Like, I can't imagine anything better. It doesn't matter how much money is coming in, who you have in your life. If you can literally be at peace and calm and not be afraid of anything, I can't imagine anything better than that, quite frankly.
That's right. There's no money. How many people I've known that had so much money and ended up killing themselves, right? So it's like, that's very unfortunate, but that's a fact, right? So now we're at the end almost.
So, as usual, we always we start out, we go through and we end at the same thing, because we're both, we're both on the same page here. We've seen it with our clients, we've seen it with ourselves, that it's really about working on, our mental, emotional well-being, not being attached, letting go of the past, loving people that have hurt us, maybe not allow them in our lives to continue to hurt us, but we can love people from afar. We can forgive them. And the forgiveness isn't about them, it's about ourselves. So we're going to end on this, but next week we're going to talk about digestion. I think that's a very important topic because that seems to be a big problem for a majority of people. And then that's it for this week. If you have any questions, please subscribe, like our video, leave any comments. Feel free to email Josephine or myself. And we're happy that you were here with us today. Thank you.
Yeah, and thumbs up. Don't forget to do the thumbs up on Michelle's video. So the more thumbs up, the better. So people, it gets circulated this way. So
and
nice.
We're working on getting better at this. So whatever comments you have would be great. Thank you.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.